Whew. How's it going, guys? I'm DJ Av, and a lot of weird stuff has been happening lately. But anyways, we're doing a mixing video, and what this mixing video is going to consist of is everything that needs to be done in this track. And you'll see it's a lot of work, but the track is actually pretty decent, and it's by Fuchsia Beats, and he did a pretty decent job of like just the whole creative side of the track. But I kind of try to want to lend out a helping hand and make sure that somebody is getting something and I'm teaching something out of it, out of mixing or whatnot. So we're in FL Studio 12, surprise, surprise, and we're just gonna go ahead and get into it. I'm gonna play the track so you can hear what he initially sent. Boy. So the first initial thing, if you actually pay attention to the oscilloscope over there, and the oscilloscope being this thing right here, you can see that there's quite a lot of phasing issues. This is not good when you see this. Matter of fact, this whole intake right now that we're going to be talking about, what we're going to be intaking is leveling, because leveling is probably the most important, if not one of the most important things that you got to do in terms of mixing. You got to make sure that everything makes sense. And in terms of that, how would you make that make sense in the oscilloscope? Now, I'm gonna go ahead and just do a couple of things to mess with the master volume, because let's see. when it's like that and it resets itself, yeah. So I don't know why he did it, and I'm probably gonna see why when I shrink it down a little bit. Oh, he faced out. Okay, now here's the thing. This master volume, you don't need to mess with that at all. Don't need to mess with that. Pardon me, guys, as I grab my pups. The reason why you don't mess with that is because you have master volume over here, and this is what you want to automate is in terms of your volume. So yeah, that is what you want to mix, because now that you have messed with that, I mean, I can go and I can mess with this, but you never know. Also, we're going to talk about in terms of when you're automating stuff. Don't slap your main automation or automation on this right here, on the master. On the master, I can't even think of it, boy. On the master bus. Wow. Because when you slap stuff on the master bus and you're trying to mix it down, in FL Studio in particular, it will figuratively, once you bounce the track down a 2-track or MP3 or a wave file, it will have that automation. But if you was to, when I want to show you, Control R, I believe, Control R, and used to do it like this, and use tracking it out for a major studio or per se me or another engineer. Once you split the mixer tracks, all this stuff will not carry over. It will not carry over at all. So please keep note of that. But yeah, so far all we did is turn on the master volume. We just try to pick out the things that could have been corrected on the giddy up. Also, you know, we're just going to overlook that. And then there's a little poppy, weird sound. It's a weird artifact that gross beat induces. You can actually, once again, you can either turn it off, which I'm pretty sure is going to make it worse. Or you can put it on high melodic, and it'll kind of, it still will be there, but you know. Like you won't hear it as much. So that being said, what was originally here was MJUC compressor. You know, I gave away. Well, I didn't give it away. Klinghelm has a free one on their website. I don't know if I don't think he used it correctly. So. Yeah, that's not gonna. we'll talk about why that bass is continuous, but yeah, you know, I went on ahead and dialed it down a little bit. We're gonna go and. Just experiment in there. Sausage in it was not going to help it anyways, but I'm going to go ahead and turn off this fruity limiter because I'm not by any means the loudness is not the issue of it being constantly. That is, so limiting it won't help it in that instance. Also, yeah, wow. I'm looking at your Maximus settings. Well, it wasn't set correctly anyways. But when you're setting your Maximus or whatnot, you can actually just, and if you put it on the master, you can just do like this. We're just gonna work it. Seems like that was pretty much the issue in terms of that you was squeezing it too hard. Holy gosh. That 808 is too much. I'm gonna go ahead and just name it right now. If I misspell your name right here, don't take it personal. But for name purposes, I'm just gonna so we actually know what it is. This is by no means a collaboration. I'm misspelled the name. It's called Worried. But yeah, this mix was it needs a lot of work. But no, the kick is okay. He has some Maximus. That I need it. So we're gonna look at the elements of the Maximus on this. now we're gonna actually attack that kick. So we're gonna go and see. Okay, well he has a cut. He does not have the kick cut, so that way it's just gonna cause face distortion and all that other stuff that we heard. And let's see what else he doesn't have cut. He doesn't have his hats cut. You're always supposed to right click and cut itself. You always should establish a cut group so that the samples won't overlap. So you do have that done on the 808, which is, thank God you had to. But you know, in that sense though, you still want to do it on every group or every channel for that matter. Save. I don't really have to save over and over. I do have this on auto save just in case, you know, FL Studio wants to trip. So, you know, so I'm gonna go and we're gonna work with the other elements of this track, and I'm gonna go ahead and unmute everything, and we're gonna look at this part. I take that 808 out for the moment, because what I did though was I severely panned some of that Nexus channel in there, because goodness gracious, it really it needed some balance. You have had too many things that was on the right hand side, I mean on the left hand side, or like you could observe that right here and see that that's as you can see, it's much clearer now. So the issue is that 808. The 808 is, but it's gonna sound a little better. I mean, there's a couple of things I'm gonna do, and I just want to see which one of your channels was the snare. Okay, so the snare has not been as I tested out there. So, you know, as I observe this, I'm going to look at a few key things. And the first thing I'm going to look is that the snare is low. So I'm just gonna push it up as hard as possible, because it's not doing anything. So I just set up a loop, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to get this snare right, because this snare doesn't have enough presence in the mid section. It's very thin, so instead of making it real loud and then it end up being too hot in the mix or whatever, or for the fact that it will be peaking too much, and you know that won't really work with that snare. I'm just going to shape it up with the EQ So it might sound a little different after the fact, but it will still hold its natural value to the track value to the track. This might not be what you envision your snare to be like, but I actually like it with a shorter envelope, so that it snaps a little harder. That and the combination of the mids that I dialed up in here, right here, and it sounds pretty cool. Alright, so we're gonna figure some stuff out here with the Master Maximus. One of the coolest things about Maximus is it is a fantastic compressor. It's never really lost its use for me. I just moved on to bigger and better things, but that doesn't mean this is worse. This is my personal preference, but essentially you can do many things with this that other compressors can't do, and one of them is this. You know, if you feel like you're sacrificing a lot of your punch, a lot of your punches being compressed, you can actually focus on that particular area within here. But if you don't know what you're doing with Maximus or whatnot, it could be you can overcomplicate your mix. And I'm just gonna make sure that there's no discrepancies, no oversampling, and no fake mid to side mode, and definitely no linear phase. Linear phase will make your track more musical, but it'd be thinner in terms of playing it out loud, stuff like that. So not something that you probably want to do. But as I lower this knee right here, this is a visual knee. Most of the time it will look a little different than this when you're messing with the ratio. You know, defining it into it's 2 to 1 or whatever that nature. You know, or if it's 0 when it's brick walling, like right here, like 0 dB. And you know what that's representing is the punch, how much the punch is being compressed or limited, depending on how it's used. But pretty sure being a multi-band compressor, limiting compression. Anyways, but you know, you don't want to compress too much. Take away some of the natural punch of that track or whatnot. That's how it sounds. That's how it sounds, not compressed. That's crazy, right? But you know, compressed. And not compressed. This is how the track sounds. You gotta look. You can even hear some phasing issues or whatnot, and God forbid anybody that hasn't seen what I do on this channel or whatnot, especially my Maximus, like one of my old videos, which I probably do a new one. I explained the reason for this right here. You know, this is stereo separation, but you do not want to do that to your lows. When you do that to your lows, you add all kinds of phase distortion and phase canceling, and you're pushing your signal out, which means your signal will be weaker, and it has a chance to overlap it into your mids and your highs. So you know, you want to make sure that your lower part of your Maximus or whatever, your low frequencies, are as dead center as possible. So you know, it ain't, you know, sprinkling a little bit of your mids, you know, stereo separating, you get to hear a little bit of things that you would not hear normally, like you will hear it. As you can hear now, like everything that has that middle part of that frequency spectrum is way out there, and the stereo separate actually sounds pretty cool like that too. Now you see how it's squeezed in there, like it's monopoly, and it's squeezed into the middle of there. So you know, I don't want to do that, but I do like the sprinkling of that. And for keepsakes, we're gonna mess with the highs a little bit. And if I want to be a technical Teddy, if I was to mess with this area right here, this represents the pre's. So if I mess with this high area, both visually and if you listen to it, you're actually bringing a little bit more of your highs higher up in the frequency spectrum. So it's sitting higher than your mids, while your mids and lows, and you know, your lows aren't that big. But if you think about it logically, your lows are dead center, and you have your mids a little bit spread in to the side a little bit, and then you have your high end spread even more. So you can actually organize that. So that's pretty cool, especially for a beat like this. It's almost like this track is like a totally different beat now that you actually can hear it. Once I gauge the 808s though, it's gonna be a slight issue, but what I'm gonna end up doing is turning the 808s down. Okay, so I'm not really working with that Maximus anymore. I'm pretty content with how it's set right now, but You know, I'm just trying to judge where those kick drums sound good in the mix and just leveling it. And it was punching a little bit too hard, a little bit more, too much for my taste. I really hate that, but that's fine. Okay, so there was a few things that I did. A lot of stuff was just balancing it and making sure that everything isn't overlapping each other, and it had its own space. The Danny Glover lead in this track, I could barely hear it. So I had a conscious decision to just raise the volume of it, but then I also had a better decision to actually change its frequency a little bit and frequency shift by, you know, just making a resonance peak notch. It give it a bit of it, finding the right space for it, because, you know, now on top of that, it will sound so much better once it's on the PA system and you can actually hear the clarity of that Danny Glover lead versus just it not, you know, just being louder and over the top of something. It also makes it much easier seeing that you didn't turn that the volume wasn't turned up, and finding the right kind of pan for it, just so it has its individuality from all the other synthesis that's going on within this track. And you know, that helps so much. And that sound too, that sound is very muddy when I listen to it. I'm tempted to open up like a third-party EQ, but for the purposes that I'm gonna send it back to them so they can actually, you know, intake what I've done to this track, I'm probably not gonna add anything third-party to it. Okay, what I'm having a rough issue with kind of distinguishing is how muddy that is. So I'm taking that reverb out, because when you add a lot of reverb to your track, the track becomes cloudy, and it's not, the clarity loses its clarity, and you know, many things get disengaged in the frequency spectrum. So you know, just getting rid of that reverb for a second, I'm gonna dial it in as needed, instead of it just being on there and just being so cloudy, even though it's a good reverb. And as you can see, me distinguishing the weaker end of this track and moving moving the GMS plugin down over here. Now I'm giving that individual synthesis its own area within the mix, because without even me looking, I can tell that is what's missing in terms of that mix. And I can actually go ahead and pull up the Maximus while I do that. And you actually can use the Maximus to actually see what frequencies, you know, will work best after shifting them over, filtering them over to a certain part of the spectrum over here. And this EQ is pretty darn good for what it is. So you don't even need any third party. So originally it was like this. See, that's all your mids right here. That's all your highs. So I just soloed everything so I can hear it. You see how much you got in the high area now. Let's check out that bottom. I can roll that over a little bit. As you can see, if I move it over, And just kind of like close things out or whatnot. You can see the close things out or whatnot. There's a lot of panning going on, and the reason for the panning is to kind of distinguish what has its own specific room. Because if I was to kind of let a lot of this stuff overlap, it would be as muddy as it was at the beginning, and you know that this is preventing it. So you know, that's pretty much it. But if you like this video, give it a like. If you have any questions or whatnot on this mixing video, please ask. I thoroughly enjoyed working with Fuchsia Beats. I love your tracks, dude. I always thought, you know, just a little bit of mixing would help take your tracks to another level. And you know, I thoroughly enjoyed this tune because it was dope when I first heard it, even though it was very, very distorted, but very good. Once again, thank you. Thank everybody. I'm DJ McCree, and y'all have a good day. Watch me